Hello and welcome to Maidens of the Spear. We're just a couple of gals talking Wheel of Time, having a wheel of great times on this channel. And today we're going to talk about a few things, but right now we're going to talk about why you, yes, you, Veronica, not really, but if, crazy, all the Veronicas out there,
Could be.
should read The Wheel of Time.
Absolutely.
By Robert Jordan.
Okay.
So first I want to start, Mary Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Should the viewer read The Wheel of Time?
Great question. Simple answer, yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
And we could stop here, but why?
It's possible you're intimidated by the 14 books in the series, each of which is at least 1,000 pages. But every single page is a treasure.
Is a treasure.
Is a treasure.
And a memory waiting to be formed, and a friendship waiting to be had.
I actually truly have a relationship with these books. Like,
100%.
They've impacted me. I see these characters as like friends of mine. I've read this. I'm in the middle of my second reading of the series. You're in the middle of your fourth
or fifth. I don't remember.
So even though they're so long, it's so worth it. I think about them a lot. Even though the characters are young, it's not YA. Like it's not young adult fiction. That is not what's going on here. It's very sophisticated world building and character development. Some things are a little reductive or basic about it, but I don't think that takes away from the complexity of the series as a whole.
Yeah, I talked to a few people who haven't read the books who watched the recent trailer for the Amazon TV series based on the books. And consistently the comments were, this looks like YA. This looks like, in the words of my girlfriend's girlfriend, this looks like cheesy Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's really not what it is. Like, that might be what the TV series is, unfortunately. But the books aren't that. Like, as I listen back through them, I forgot just how dark they were from the very beginning.
From the very beginning, the first two chapters, there's a lot of darkness and really serious discussion of like morality and family and identity. Yeah, it is definitely not cheesy Game of Thrones because that's The Witcher, right?
No, I mean, yeah.
And we love The Witcher in my house. That's the cheesy Game of Thrones. That's Party City Game of Thrones, and I love it. Wheel of Time absolutely should not be that. And I actually have a lot of faith that this TV series, I was not looking forward to the TV series. Well, of course I was looking forward to it, but I was not optimistic, shall we say, about the possibility of adapting such a complex series into TV. But I watched the trailer and was like absolutely positively surprised by how much I liked it. However, I know what people are seeing when they watch the trailer. Yeah. It's incredibly color saturated.
But wait, Mary Lou, I don't want to interrupt these good thoughts. But we're not here to talk about the trailer. We're here to talk about why you should read The Wheel of Time.
Right. Great point.
And
I get carried away.
And that's my fault for bringing up the trailer. I know a lot of people might be coming to the book series now via the TV series and via the hype around the TV series. So I just wanted to head that off. People who watch the trailer and like, this looks cheesy, YA. Not for me.
Not at all.
The books ain't that.
No, the characters might be teenagers, but this is not YA, and a lot of the characters that we do follow are not teenagers. So it's not like that's all you're getting is only a teenager's perspective for the entire book or for the entire series. And for what it's worth, these teenagers do, let's say they're forced to grow up pretty quickly. And so are very adult and very sophisticated in their behavior and thinking and narration and such.
I think Robert Jordan and George R.R. Martin, who wrote Song of Ice and Fire, which the Game of Thrones is based on, are engaged in a fairly similar project from the outset. Like, they're both really interested in exploring the genre of fantasy through its tropes. But where George R.R. Martin's take that we see in Game of Thrones is like, what if we set up all these tropes and then just like crush those expectations? We turn them on our side. Aren't we a clever little gremlin? Teehee. Like, that's George R.R. Martin. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna kill
You
Ned
think
Stark.
you think
at
Ned's the
end
hero?
Exactly.
First book, he's dead.
Yeah. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones in 2021.
It's too late for
but
you.
Robert Jordan is also very interested in the tropes of fantasy, but he's not afraid of them. He's not trying to subvert them. He like delivers on the tropes hardcore. I think what he's more interested in is exploring the question of like, okay, let's take the trope. What does that look like for real people?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what you end up getting in the game of the Wheel of Time is just this masterful piece. It I think, like, thematically, in short, it is an exploration of trauma and trauma responses. And different characters are facing different forms of trauma all the time. And this is something Mary Lou brought up when we were talking about one of the characters, Egwene, and we'll talk about her later. But after Mary Lou brought that up, and I've been just listening back through the series, like, you're totally right. Like, the whole book is centered around trauma, and like,
but not only on a character scale, which it is, and it's really detailed and really like sincere and genuine the way characters deal with trauma in a variety of different ways, but also on a societal scale, right? How entire cultures have experienced trauma and society ending and I can't think of the word, just like huge shifts in culture and how that creates culture. Think about the way the Tyrants hate power. Think about the way the Kyrian dedicate themselves to Deus de Mar. Think about the Two Rivers.
And for those of you who haven't read the books, you won't understand what she's talking about. But just imagine if you could.
Just imagine.
No, I mean, I think that's entirely true.
It's really special. The Aiel, right? Now the trauma that shaped
don't
them.
spoil
the
anything.
Tinkers.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers.
But yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, the cultures are shaped in response to traumas of the past, and they are undergoing a trauma in the present. I mean, it is not a spoiler, I don't think, to say that the Wheel of Time is about a world that is crumbling. This is a story that takes place at the end of the world. And it is about how people respond to that. It is about how people respond to the world ending. And it's been so like cathartic for me, who goes through my daily life feeling like I'm living through the end of our world.
Yeah.
To be able to have this story and see these characters. And it is like, it is just really powerful.
Complex. It's very complex, right, in the storytelling, but there's something about it that's also very simple that I find very comforting. It is the end of the world. There are, devastating events, and there are also really good people, and there are bad people, and there's people in the middle. But at the end of the day, you know what the bad guy's name is? The Dark One.
The Dark One, yeah.
The Dark One. Like, that's the bad guy, And that's so comforting to me that, the bad guy is the Dark One. And there are people that are dedicated to the Dark One, and they are called Dark Friends. And bad is bad and good is good. And there's a lot of stuff in the middle, especially the way certain people are perceived and culture wide. You'll find it very relatable. But it is very comforting that, like, there's no question in my mind who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and or at least what you think.
And as you said, there is tons of gray in the middle, especially with human characters who are constantly pulled by human motivations that might lead them on the path towards evil, but the human motivations themselves aren't evil.
Mm-hmm. There's plenty of characters who think they're the good guys.
And are not.
There are plenty of characters who are good guys,
cough,
but
white
are doing
cloaks.
things exactly opposite ways. What did you say?
I said cough, white cloaks, cough, cough, cough.
White cloaks.
Yeah, but it's also a story about climate collapse in its own way. Like, I don't think Robert Jordan wrote it specifically to be about climate collapse. Maybe he did, but it's not like N.K. Jemisin's like the 5th season where it's like about climate collapse,
which is definitely about climate change and climate collapse.
But it is a world where the climate is dying and crops are failing and everything is upside down and
winters are lengthening and springs are shortening.
And people are just craving anything to make sense of it and to latch onto and to feel hopeful for. And so they do crazy things all over the place. But it's understandable. And I think we're seeing that today.
Yeah. It's a story about prophecies being fulfilled, but not always in the way that you think they're going to be, which is such a fantasy trope, right? But it's done very well.
And perhaps most importantly, for some of you, it is a story about badass women who do badass magic all up over the damn place. And probably
some badass dudes.
And some badass dudes. But I think like what sets the Wheel of Time apart in terms of its setting and its cultures is that, and a brief summary for those of you who haven't read the books, this is a world in which men who can do magic inevitably go insane and start destroying everything around them. So the only people in this world who can safely use magic are the women. And this has led to a society that is matriarchal to its core, which is not something you see in a lot of fantasy, or you see more of it now. But when Robert Jordan started writing the series in the 90s, I think it was fairly innovative, at least in terms of like white guys writing fantasy. Like,
totally.
Like, yeah, okay. He wasn't like breaking any new ground, but at least in terms of like mainstream best-selling fantasy novels. And he's not doing it like people see the way he writes about women, and like the women in his series are always like men, and the men are always like women, and people are like, oh, he's so gender reductive, or like some people accuse him of being a misogynist, but I don't think he is. Like, he's an older white man, and so sometimes women, there might be like some men who are like, well, I'm gonna spank you or whatever, and like that gets a little weird, and like there's a lot of crossing your arms under your breasts, and like there are like tropes in his writing that undercut this, but overall, like some of the most complex, most powerful, strongest characters, and not just strong in magical power, which they are, but strong in terms of their own like character and point of view
and rich inner life.
And
they're all very different.
They're all different,
which is really appreciated. Yeah, there's so many great female characters. I mean, that we can name off just the top of our heads.
Yeah,
you know, Egwene, Nynaeve, Moiraine, Melida,
all of the wise ones. Yeah, it's
Avienda, Elaine.
We've been talking about this for too long, but if you're on the fence about whether or not you should read The Wheel of Time, just read it. Try it. Listen to the audiobooks while you're doing dishes, while you're walking your dog. Just try the audiobooks. I really love them. I will admit, the first few chapters of the audiobooks, the reader, he's trying some things that he does not carry through. So give it a couple hours. But
and I've also heard that Eye of the World, which is the first book in the series, it is a little slower. I still very much enjoyed it and was hooked a few chapters in. But I've had a lot of friends struggle to get through Eye of the World. But once you do, it really opens up, which, that's a lot. I get it. But if you want to trust us. It's worth it.
It is. So 10 out of 10. That's my most favoritist, most meaningful series. Give it a try. And Worst case scenario, you don't like it, and you never have to trust us again about anything. Best case scenario, you love it, and you find a meaningful escape from the hellish dystopia that surrounds us day to day.
America's a nightmare.
Yep. So read The Wheel of Time. And also, come watch us talk about it on Maidens of the Spear on Twitch and also on YouTube. And also we play D&D, and we might be playing a Wheel of Time TTRPG that we're designing. So you
Every
can come and hang out
Sundays
with
at
us.
4 p.m.
We'll be your friends, and you can get as parasocial as you want about it.
It's true.